Here we are. Welcome back to Slates and Koffee. Today we talk about sisterhood. We are your hosts, Toy Mason, Nneka, and Tequoia. We are here. I think it's needed to have this conversation about sisterhood, especially in a majority male dominant industry, right? When we go on sets, when we're in these meetings, it's usually male. It's usually male, all male, male testosterone, male all everything. So what do you guys think? Do you guys think that like sisterhood is lacking in this industry?
I don't think so. I am a member of three female industry organizations. So it's really warm to know that so many women are also in the industry and are going through the same experiences. And there's a place for us to come together and share these experiences and to help each other to become successful in the industry. But I do think that we need more advocates on the male side, because we can do a lot as females in these spaces that are female driven, but since the men are the ones holding the pocketbooks, holding the wallets, we need to have advocates on that side of the aisle that are willing to, open those doors so that we can be as creative and successful as we actually want to be.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll definitely agree. We have sisterhood by default. There's women in this world, and though unfortunately there are some women who are against women, I feel like they're the minority. I think majority of women are just naturally going to want to support and encourage other women, and then end up making groups specific to what their interests are. So then the issue becomes more so the visibility, and like you were talking about, the gatekeeping and how we can have that equality in these spaces. Yeah, sisterhood is a strong, beautiful thing. It's just a matter of how are we going to take the reins so we can have that access to do what we have inside of us, which, now, right now, we see a lot more of that because thankfully there's been a lot of pushback in the past couple of decades. So I guess the hope is that it just grows and continues and doesn't backslide anytime soon.
Right.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, women, we are a minority, right? We had to fight for our voting rights. So just like any minority, there has to be an advocate, whether it's civil rights, gay rights, LGBTQ, women rights. So I feel like there has to be a strong advocate. And I think men, since this is male dominant, should step up to the plate and help us out a little bit.
To some degree. It's kind of, I don't know, maybe this is just the type of person I am. Because I know the men do hold a lot of the reins. Like I said, gatekeeping, it's because they're in place and they have the power. But I'm also the type who's like, I don't really care who's holding the power. I'm going to make my version of it. Hard to do in an industry, especially when you're trying to make it your career and your actual income, because you can't just poof up certain positions. But I feel like if you're, and this might just be speculation, I haven't really seen it happen for myself, but like, if you kind of push forward on your own terms, at some point you kind of make a way through that. I'm still in progress, but I feel like if I just, I'm not saying that you're saying we need to just sit and wait until men be like, hey, so we get it now. I know you're not saying that, but I feel like if we don't focus so much on, I need you to understand versus here's what I can do, and here's what I'm going to do, as if this wasn't a road blockage for me. And then I feel like with enough power and push on that end, by default, they just kind of have to make way because there's only so much force they can put on us. If we just come all together and keep doing our own thing, things end up moving. Again, speculation. I don't really know. I mean, we're all still going through these issues, but I just don't want to put so much of our eggs in someone else's basket that I think we can control ourselves.
So do you think that the Me Too movement, that there has been any change in the industry to benefit women since that happened?
I'm not too, I don't, and this is not against Me Too or the industry. I think in general with news, I'm not super aware of every little thing that changes, but I did hear about one change, and I don't know if it's considered a small change versus what has changed. But one thing that I've noticed and heard about was that they made a new law. I don't know if it was specific to SAG or just an industry rule in general, that like you can't have auditions in hotel rooms anymore. You have to have it in a general space. And that definitely would be a good positive change. I know because of the Me Too movement, whether it be the organization or just the concept as a whole, people coming out and, sticking to their experiences and speaking about them. I know because of that, more women have been more so encouraged to do the same and to walk, to know what their boundaries are and to hold to it instead of the prior thought where it's like, if I don't, someone else will. If I don't, they're going to blacklist me. So I think there have been changes because we've had that, our voices have been heard. Again, because people were pushing and people were saying, hey, I will be heard. This is going to happen. And granted, there's a lot of different moving elements to just about any situation, any event, any movement. I do think in this way, it's definitely helped women be able to be more comfortable about protecting their peace and their boundaries.
That's crazy that was just now set in the law. Like
Just
that's
now.
so 1960s. Like why are we just now doing that in 2023? That's crazy.
Yeah. Or 2021, I think.
Okay.
A couple years ago, yeah.
Still,
Yeah.
that's saying that in 2020, producers still thought that it was okay to hold auditions in
private spaces. Yeah.
Like, really? Like, unbelievable.
I mean, again, like I said, it's a multifaceted conversation, but it's just nice to see that at least the industry is taking strides, at least in that one way. Again, I'm not really plugged into what has changed and hasn't changed. I just hear things in bits and pieces. But when I heard that, I was like, okay, that for sure. As someone who comes in with next to no power, that is definitely a really safe guard for the newer people. And even some of the, established people too, to come in and know that you're being protected in that way. I'm appreciative of it. Yeah.
All right. Well, we have a very special guest today that's going to join us in this conversation about sisterhood. Her name is Toni Bullock. She's a Emmy-winning producer. She has produced on Taraji's mental health piece on Facebook TV. She has also produced on Red Table Talk with Jada Pinkett and the Smiths, all of them. So we are going to join her in. She has also created Cocktails to Call Sheets, where she is bridging the gap to those in the entertainment industry and to getting job placements. And if you are not part of her email blast, please be a part of it. There's email blasts every day for jobs in the industry. So we welcome Miss Toni Bullock.
Oh my gosh. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Hey.
Yeah, so pretty. How are y'all?
You are
And you
always
too.
gorgeous, Miss
Yes.
Toni Bullock. It sounds so important. It sounds so prestige.
Oh, stop.
Toni Bullock.
Stop. You're hyping me up so much. Look at you on this blessed Sunday. I feel so honored to be here and talk to you guys.
Oh, amazing. Miss
coming.
Cocktails to Call Sheets. We were just speaking about the topic that we're having today on sisterhood. And what does that mean to you in this industry?
We're going to just jump right in. Okay, cool.
How are you? How's your day? How you doing?
Let's just dive right in. It's cool. I mean, if you want to talk about my day, I was literally talking about sisterhood. I was watching Girlfriends and Sisters. And it's usually like my Sunday of like watching things, cleaning and stuff that the show, what the storyline is.
Yeah.
I watched Harlem, which I didn't know the storyline, but it was a good story
Right.
season so far. But to talk about sisterhood, sisterhood to me, sisterhood, I guess, is like a pact. It's like it could be anybody from someone who's blood to someone you just met to someone you just met on the street and you built a strong bond with them overnight. It's somebody you share ideas with, but someone who always checks you too at the same time. And someone who uplifts you and builds you and is there when you feel in a safe space to like break down your own personal walls, whatever that may be. And you just be like, we were broke yesterday eating peanut butter together and we building each other, whether you have the same dream or maybe you guys go on a different path. And now we're eating at Nobu. So I feel like sisterhood is defined many different ways. But I feel like for me, it's somebody you feel safe with, that you could share your hopes, your dreams, and also your tears and all the sorrows that you may be going through.
I love that. That is, it feels so warm. And that's what sisterhood should be about, right? Like, doesn't matter what facet, what past, what trauma, what history. It's all about the bonding and the connection that you get with someone.
Completely.
Yeah. So do you feel like in this industry there's a lack thereof, or?
I wouldn't say there's a lack thereof. I feel like it really depends on the person and where you are in your life. I feel like when it comes to women of color, it's very hard to jump into this industry because like there's not many of us. We're definitely have grown and changed from the past 10 years. So it's definitely been much more growth within the industry. But I feel like when you're first starting as a PA, you might be the only one of the show that you're on. So it's hard to connect with other people of color. And it's about accessibility and reaching out and talking to. So I do feel that as you grow in the industry, you might start making and meeting more friends and meeting more people, and you start building that sisterhood with other people. So I feel like that's one of the reasons why I started Call Sheets and Cocktails, is because it's important I feel like when you first start in the industry, you're always trying to be like, how can I network up? And it's really about networking next to each other, because it's kind of like what I said of you are going to have some times where you can't get to that VP, but you can sit and cry to the next PA and you guys experience the same thing. It's kind of like therapy in a way, like you both have the same trauma and you're experiencing it together. And that's how you build a sisterhood. So I feel like for me and my circle, I do have a great sisterhood amongst friends, and they range from people I moved out here in LA in 2009, and we're still friends to this day. One of them is in scripted, I'm in reality. It's only two different worlds, but we hang out and we still share all our, things that we go through. And then I have people who I just met maybe last year, and we still check in and talk, and we still support each other on a different front where they may be on the same side and they share my resume, I share theirs, give advice, vice versa.
Mm-hmm. I want to tell how I actually met Toni. So I've been in the industry since 2003 and took about a 7-year break to have kids, marriage, the whole thing, kind of lose your way, lose who you are. So as you gradually get back in it, you create, and I ran across Toni from Women of Color, I believe. And it was like, yeah, log on to add yourself to this job website so she can, she does this. So I'm like, okay, wow. So I emailed Toni and she's like, how did you know about me first? And I was like, oh, no. So since then, I want to say it's been 2 years, I was pitching to her. She didn't know me from a can of paint, but as Toni was very open, like Toni to me, and she's a rare breed. Because although I was pitching to her, she said the right words. She kept the door open. I felt comfortable. And that's something that you have mentioned before, like a safe space. Like here I am vulnerable as a mom, getting back into the game. And the industry is like a bicycle. It doesn't stop for no one. And as it keeps going, it evolves. It gets higher, more technical, and more modernized. So I'm like, whoa, like things have changed. But she was a safe space for me to go back to. And I kept pitching, kept pitching to her. So thank you for that.
No, I appreciate that. That's something I feel like I'm starting to hear back even from our mixers, is that a lot of people separate them from other organizations because they feel like it's a safe space. It's like I've been that person who comes to a mixer and feel overwhelmed or feel like, do I belong here? Or I don't see somebody else that looks like me, and or I'm too scared to talk to this SVP or president. How do I do that? And I feel like it's something I want to make sure that I give that off to C2C or whoever I meet, of like, the industry could be like a club and it doesn't have to be, but it's one of those things that someone has helped me. How can I help somebody else? And it's just basically trying to make sure that I leave footsteps behind me, that the next generation continue the work that the people in front of me did, that I'm continuing to do today.
Well, you're definitely doing it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Y'all so sweet. Y'all hyping me up on this Sunday. I'm happy.
You brought up something that I have a question. So you say that lateral collaboration and lateral connections with people is a great way to build up relationships in the industry. But do you also feel that mentorship is an important part of sisterhood as well?
Completely. I feel that I tell my mentees, like I have a different range of mentees from all races, backgrounds, sexes, everything, because I do feel that it's important that everyone has a different experience. And I feel like it's kind of like how we have therapists as Black women. We always say, find yourself another Black woman as a therapist because they could be relate. I've had maybe 3 therapists in my life, and they all been different people because they taught me different things. And I feel like the same thing with mentorship is the same thing. You should have different mentors, whether they're your friends who's your age, or whether they are your someone above you, like 5 feet above you, whatever, 5 steps above you, because this industry, as you know, there's no like right way to be successful. You could be a PA yesterday and then sold a show tomorrow. And I feel that my mentorship to people I know is telling you, like, this is what happened to me. This is what I wish I would have done better. This is what I know today, that if you were to make this deal, make sure that this deal doesn't last this long. Make sure that this is in that deal that protects you, because you won't know until you go through those steps and take those risks. So if you have mentors that help guide you, and it's somebody you quickly reach out to, whether it's, if you're a producer, have a mentor that's a lawyer, have a mentor that's also a producer, have a mentor that is a line producer, because all those different people are going to teach you different things of the industry. And then also have a mentor that's not even in the industry, that you just want to talk to and just say, I feel like I'm the only one in this company. I really don't know how to navigate. And they're just telling you the exact same thing because they may be the only one in their industry. It could be tech, it could be whatever. And they're just sharing the same bond that you are. So it's just basically, it's really important to have people that you don't ever want to be the smartest person in the room. Make sure you build a team around you that guides you.
Absolutely. What was your motivation for creating call sheets to cocktails?
Lack of education in the industry, to be honest. I feel like you go to school, and I went to grad school, you learn about the industry, but you don't know, you only learn but so much in school. The industry is constantly changing. Like you said, the technology is constantly changing. So it was basically like, I remember there was a time when someone asked me, Toni, like, how did you get this job? How'd you get this job? I've been applying on Staff Me Up. I've been applying on LinkedIn. And for me, it was being in spaces where I saw how men were networking, and I saw how they talked, and I saw how sometimes we don't even have the capability of being like, I'm gonna go have drinks after work like men do, because we're gonna go home, take care of the kids. But we do have a time where we like, you know what, let's all bond together, meet for a networking mixer and talk to each other and help each other. And I felt like there weren't a lot of mixers happening that way. And I started in 2017 based off a group called Women Working in Reality. And it was basically everyone kept saying, we should meet. At the time, I was a segment producer. And for those who don't know what a segment producer is, it's a person who locks a location that we're going to go shoot at. We do the contract. We say we're going to shoot from 5 to 9, and we make a deal. And I go scouting, looking for locations that we could shoot. And I'm like, that's basically what we could do for a mixer. I just go to the same locations and say, hey, can I have a mixer here? I negotiate a rate. I told them, let's have a happy hour. I'll bring X amount of people. It helps the business, also helps us. And it's a safe space for the women to connect, talk to each other. And I always try to make an announcement maybe once or twice to basically remind you why you're here. Get out of the space, get out of your head. I know you brought 2 friends with you. Leave them alone. Go meet 2 other friends because you want to build your network, and you're only as strong as your network, because you will get the next job outside of your show. I mean, you'll get your next job based off like the network outside of the show that you're working on. And I realized that in one of my first jobs, I was a stream maker for Home Edition, and it was like the show was for 9 seasons. And I remember I was networking within the show and I was doing all these things. It got canceled, and I was early in my career and I didn't know anybody else outside that show. And it's important to meet people on other shows and other networks, because if my show's wrapping up in a month, I could call somebody else on another show, like on Bravo or whatever, and just be like, hey, are you guys staffing soon? And then I send my resume in advance so I don't feel stuck and feel like I'm unemployed for X amount of times. It's always a constant networking. And I feel like for women, we don't have the avenues to have these spaces of networking, and that's what Call Sheets really is. And we're excited to branch off in the future about other things we're going to do in the future that's going to help women. It's like we have other things, like what in the past we had freelance and financials. Women sometimes don't know about how to balance their checkbook. When you're a freelancer, you make great money on one show, you make horrible money on the other show. All these finance books tells you about how to be a salary and how to balance out. How do you do that as a freelancer for like 365 days a year? We try to have classes, something similar like that helps women, because you want to make sure you save for retirement, you have an IRA, all these things that they're not going to teach you in school. So I'm learning these steps. So I think about, if I'm thinking about this, I'm sure there's other women thinking about it as well. Right. So that's where we just keep adding and adding and adding master classes in a way.
Do you feel, I'm sorry, Nneka?
No, it's fine.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, because I hear you on the networking thing. I definitely think it is very much a part of the equation, especially in an industry with no true set blueprints. But can you speak a bit to the artists and the people before and behind the camera who are a bit more introverted, not as like, you know, they might know specifically how to talk to others, but it's not necessarily a part of their framework. Like, have you had members like that?
No, completely. I try to encourage, we throw out newsletters, like try to once a month. We could be better at it. But I try to project and tell the women, don't feel like you can't come alone. Like, we really want to make sure that you feel comfortable here. And I try to make sure I pick spaces that don't feel cold. It feels like a family owned business. Everyone's really friendly. I always go before I meet the people who work there, because I don't want to make it feel like very stush or bougie, that you're like, oh, I don't belong here. And I also make sure that everybody who I hire, or even my teammates who are part of C2C, when we get there, we walk around and we see a girl that's there not talking to anybody or look shy. I personally make sure that I walk up to her and talk to her. I'm like, hey, what are you looking to do? What are you trying to accomplish? She's like, I want to be a director. Great. Come meet this other person who I know is a director. And I might just toss you to that person, introduce you, and I'll hop on to the next girl. Like, and it's just like, and I always try to tell every woman, it's not about meeting 100 people at all these mixers. It's about meeting one person. If you meet one person, you accomplish the night, basically. And that's one person you added to your network. And make sure you check in, and you make sure you go to brunch afterwards, maybe a month from now, and follow up and talk and build strong relationships. And we give them networking tips. We give 10 networking tips before we have it every mixer, to be like, you're not pitching yourself. You're just meeting a new friend in the industry that you could possibly collaborate and then build and grow with later in your life. It's really not always transactional. It's really about just building your circle.
I think you've been the perfect person for this subject, because you're saying everything, answering all the questions that if someone in the audience is having a problem, because there are some people that kind of introverts, so they, you know, kind of stick to themselves, don't really know how to introduce themselves, but you're giving the right answers to those to basically put yourself out. What do you think is the common issue of those women that are working in the industry that's having a difficult time to express themselves or meet the next person?
Come again, one more time. A difficult time.
Those introverts, those women in the industry that are not as comfortable as introducing themselves on set to other women and networking, because we know this industry is about networking, is about getting to the next job, what would be the best advice to give to that person?
Start small. I mean, I'm a person that takes big steps, and I've been told that since college. Like, I like to jump 5 steps when it's like, you're supposed to step 1 step at a time. And I feel like as women or anyone who works in this industry is that type of person. We're always going to take big steps. We're already big achievers. Jumping into an industry like this is not stable. It's not safe. It's like so many things, factors that go into it. But you also have to acknowledge yourself, how brave you are in general. And if you're too scared to go face to face to a person, that's totally fine. What I remember when I was a PA, I worked on scrubs. I looked at the call sheet and everybody's information is right there. You're already in the club when your name is on the call sheet. All you got to do is basically take some time, look at the email that person on the side and say, hey, I'm a PA or whatever you are. My name is Toni. We work together. I really admire what you do. Do you mind if we can set coffee? Or now can we set a Zoom or whatever you feel comfortable with? If you feel safe in a Zoom, ask to set a Zoom. If you want to do a one-to-one interview and just say, can I have 15 minutes of your time? Buy them coffee. When you ask somebody for coffee, make sure you buy it because make them turn it down. But it's like you really asking them for their knowledge and basically to help you in a way of like, how did you accomplish this? I really want to be a writer just like you. I really want to be a DP just like you. What do you suggest? And then maybe that's a better step to do like on a one-on-one compared to go to bigger events like this. And as you start getting more and more comfortable, then go to another mixer or some other event with somebody else with a friend. And that will help you to feel comfortable if you went with a friend. And then after a while, you'll eventually get comfortable. You start going by yourself. Trust me, I have those moments. I go to other people's mixers. I have moments where I get scared. And I'm just like, oh, get out of your head. Because I'm so used to hosting them. I have to remind myself of being on the other side of the table. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go there. I talk to myself. I'll be there for 2 hours. Talk to 3 people, get their information, and follow up. I do the exact same thing I try to tell the other women.
Wow. So much vital information.
I have a question. Okay, so we're not trying to be like the good old boy system. They have their thing, we have ours, female driven. But what is it that they do well that you believe that we can implement so that we can be more successful in the industry?
Talk about your friend in the room. Like we could do more of that. I feel like a lot of my friends, I've built a great circle of friends, and I will put out something like, hey, I'm about to look for another job. And easily someone was like, hey, did you see this job posting? And they're like, do you know somebody here? Or if they hear a job opening, they'll be like, oh, my friend Toni does XYZ. And I've been very thankful and blessed for that. And I do the same for them as well. If they tell me they're looking. It's really about be your friend's hype person. Like talk them up, I feel like there was something I was watching the other day, and it says the story we tell other people about ourselves is always smaller than who we are. And I feel like we always be like, oh, I'm not really, you may look at somebody and be like, you know what, they're great. They're 100%. That person might look at themselves like, you know, I'm really 85. And it's like, but I need my friend who's going to be like, nah, she's 100%. She knows how to do this. She knows how to do that. And I feel like a lot of the boys in the boys club, they talk themselves up a little bit more than most other people do. One of the things that I personally do that one of my girlfriends actually taught me is when you go on a job interview, put your white man face on. And it's basically, and you're Superman, basically the white man face. It's like you stand up, put your chest back, and you walk in there like you're the baddest person in there. And you talk yourself up and you have 3 things. Exactly. It's like when you stand up and you put your chest back, all of a sudden you have this confidence that's going to your head. And it's just like, you feel a little bit more included, but not included, but you feel like you belong there a little bit more. If you're going like this, you're like, then someone says one thing, it triggers you. So you want to make sure you put all those blockers up. And then also I talk to a friend every time before an interview. I talk to them, I go over the interview questions, they test me. And I feel like if we keep practicing with each other and helping each other, do those role plays of like, what are the questions that you feel that, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Things like that. And I feel like that will help us go further in the industry.
Awesome.
Actually, can I just add on to that? I definitely agree with that. I think people forget that just because you're looking for a job or, trying to grow your network, that you're the inferior of the two. I think of it more as a lateral thing. Or if we look at, jobs, you're looking for a job. Oh, I hope this boss likes me. Yeah, it would have to like you. But the other thing is they're looking for someone to fill a position. You need them, but they need you. Thinking about it in the way that you were talking about, knowing what you bring to the table and being confident in that, I feel levels the playing ground. You don't want to be cocky, but you come in knowing okay, you may or may not choose me, but here's what I can bring to the table. And then also, what can you tell me that will make me want your job as well? Just remember
Completely.
Yeah.
It's a back and forth. You're interviewing them as well. And when you're going on these interviews, make sure you have 3 questions about when they say, oh, do you have any questions? Never say no. Always be yes. When are you looking to hire and staff for this position? The last person that was in this role, may I ask what happened to them? Sometimes they have an answer of, did they quit or they got promoted? I'm looking for growth in the company. Is there growth within the community? I'm looking for a place that I could stay there for longer than, I don't know, a year. Sometimes these roles are just specifically for that and they want you to move on to someplace else. So make sure that you feel comfortable. And I always, when I do interviews with companies, I always ask around my network and be like, hey, have you heard anything about this company? Because I'm sure they're doing the same thing with you with the references. So you want to do your own reference checks as well.
Yeah.
It's a partnership. You're not doing them a favor.
Completely.
Exactly. And I think anyone that's watching, when we lay these out, that if you had any question or any doubt how a sisterhood is formed, it was done in these last 30 minutes. It's just that simple. We have 4 individuals from 4 different backgrounds, 4 different positions, 4 different facets, experiences, years in this industry. And just that quickly, it's just simple. It's interesting to know Toni, Toy, Nneka, Tequoia, and just having a conversation, having a sip of coffee or alternative wine. Thank you, Elixir, for this. We appreciate you guys very much so. Sponsorships. We thank you. We thank you, Toni. And we want to end this on Dr. Maya Angelou's quote. People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So when we step onto these sets and these offices, these production companies, bring your best self. Like Toni said, bring your confidence, own the position. Know you was X, Y, and Z before you even applied. So when they interview you, they're going to wish they hired you. They're going to wish they owed you something. They're going to wish they wrote you a check before you leave the office. So we thank you, Toni. We appreciate you. We know you are a busy, busy woman, but you have blessed the stage once again. Kudos to Toni.
Thank you guys for having me. I had such a great time talking to you. Absolutely. I'm excited to hear the other episodes.
Yes, and continue to do what you do. Call sheets to cocktails, because you're definitely leaving a mark. People will never forget how you made them feel. I will always remember how you made me feel and how you continue to make me feel. So thank you for your sisterhood.
My pleasure, ladies. Have a great Sunday.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Oh, that was amazing. I felt warm. You guys feel warm?
Yes.
My heater's on, but also because of the conversation.
Mine too, but I still feel cozy. I feel cozy. I feel another field of coffee alternative, something that we never get during the day. It was definitely something fulfilling to me. I don't know about you guys if you're feeling the same thing. So we thank you, Miss Toni Bullock. You guys do not forget to follow her at Toni Bullock on social media, and Call Sheets to Cocktails as well. Please follow up, link on her, and sign up for her job boards. Thank you so much. You guys have a great one.